Here we are at lesson number 6. Lesson number 6 is going to pull back a little bit and take a broader look at pages and groups in the Smart Notebook software. We are going to learn how to modify and change, delete, and move around our pages. After we're finished with pages, we are then going to take a look at how we group those pages with our groups. With lesson 6, we are going to take a look at two major things. We're going to take a look at pages, and then we're going to take a look at groups. Let's move on to pages right away. It's nice and simple and neat, and we've worked with it a little bit already, so you're already slightly familiar with it. Right here we have a blank page. If I want to work my way through the other two pages that I have created, I click on any of the thumbnails. One other way of moving back and forth between these pages is to work with these arrows right up here. If we zoom in, we can take a look and see that we have two arrows. One of them is grayed out because we can't move forward, we're at the end. But if I click backwards, here I am on this page that has the new and the old on it, and if I click forward, I can click forward one page at a time. That's what those arrows are for. When I'm down at the end, you already are familiar with the fact that I can press this new page button and it will give me a brand new page. What you don't know yet is that you can shuffle or juggle these different pages around. And if I take this first page right here, I can actually drag it down, and you'll notice that this blue bar appears in between the second and third page because it's saying to me right now, if I drop this page, that's where it's actually going to go. Let me show you that one more time. If I drag this down, as soon as I get between those second and third pages, it's going to let me know, sure enough, if I let go, that's where it's going to go. So now you can see that the shapes page is actually in between the words and the blank page. And if I want to drag the shapes page down to the bottom, I just click and drag it down to the bottom. So now I have words, blank, shapes. If I want to delete, copy, clone, or paste any of these pages, there aren't any neat little buttons up at the top, but you'll see that there is a tiny little down arrow again. Just like on the objects, when you click on the object like this one right here, you'll see that you have all of those options because of that drop down. In similar fashion, if we go to the little pages thumbnail over here, it has the drop down arrow again. And if you take or pay attention, if you take a look very close, you'll see that you can delete the page, clear the page, clone the page, or rename the page. Right now, by default, all the pages are named by the date when they were created. That doesn't make a lot of sense for some of the things that we work with. For instance, I would certainly want to call this my geometry or my shapes page, so I can rename it by clicking on the rename page. Again, this is something you would do back in your office at your computer, not while you're in front of the class. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to clone the page, and it makes another one. So now I have two shapes pages, and they look exactly the same. Why might you do that? Well, in the first page, maybe you would have all the images shuffled this way, and in the second page, you could actually take and shuffle the images around, and you could ask your students, now this would be for lower levels obviously, but you could ask your students, what changes between this page and this page? And they would have to figure out what changes occurred, what changes took place. And if I go back to this page up here at the top, and I go back to the drop down, I can see that I could actually insert a blank page just below it, or I could click that button. But the last thing I could do is I could delete the page, which would delete it, or clear the page, which all it does is it takes everything that used to be on that page. Let me show you this one more time. I'm going to use the undo button. I have two words on here, but if I go like this, drop down, and I clear the page, all it did was it erased everything for me. As you can see, working with pages, shuffling them around, writing on them, cloning them, and manipulating them is actually fairly simple, but it's very, very useful and a tactic or a trick that you need to learn. Let's move this lesson back into the office area where you can use some of your keyboard shortcuts, and you can use your mouse, and you can use your keyboard to actually type some things. This is obviously, you're a teacher, most of your lessons are going to be developed back here in the office anyway, and so consequently most of your pages are going to be created back in the office also. So realistically, this is where you should really be working with your pages, learning about your pages anyway.